Bayentu fan commercial media film CCA na hona committee na tena se ene gay ene ho sansam ye amanfo adwenkyere no ekoso yenkotie de owa homa so ana owo floor se abre okasa.
What I would term parliamentary overreach. Why would you want to protect in the public interest the same public and at the same time put in provisions that will criminalize advocacy for? Allow LGBTI persons who have a right to at least even push back against the laws that are being made against them. You don't even want them to have the opportunity to speak in defense. That is the implication of the bill. And I think that freedom of expression and of the media is an area we should be very careful of. Because those are areas this committee may want to critically assess, otherwise you may go into some overreach. And when I say overreach, you appreciate what I'm talking of. In the sense that, of course, if you do that, there will be a likelihood that the whole law that will come out of it may be subject to certain challenges at the Supreme Court, which would be unnecessary if we did the needful. Now, freedom of association is another fundamental freedom, which I see in the bill an attempt at preventing Ghanaians from associating in regard to the activities. Yes, in regard to the activities. The Commission takes the view that Section 104 has already criminalized the act. That is the position. So why then add provisions that will now bring other persons or other people when they are to do associate in one way or the other, like what happened in Ho, into it? Why? I think
something happened in Ho.
Section 104 is sufficient, and if it is not sufficient, we can make an amendment of that provision sufficient to deter people along those lines, and not to open up so that any one of us, like me as a member of the commission or commissioner of charge with a mandate to promote human rights, if I decide to speak on behalf of the minority and the vulnerable, then I'm opening myself to a possible criminal prosecution. Why would that be? We need to be very careful as we consider the bill. Again, the promoters went a distance at trying to let you as a committee appreciate that there's nothing wrong at the international level regarding the commitments of Ghana, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the other international instruments, including the African Charter. I beg to differ, because there are general comments of the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights Committee, which have actually defined sexual orientation as a human right. And by the way, Ghana has ratified it without reservation. So what we can do as a nation should be, we have all the power to go back and make some reservations if we want. But to say that it is not, that is not a human right, I would say once the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, Ghana is a member of the General Assembly of the UN and is subject to the jurisdiction of that committee. And the general comments of that committee have included sexual orientation as a human right. We need to be very careful, because it only takes the Supreme Court to import that into our law, and it is done. So let's be very careful. I think since I'm not here to speak for or against. I'm only drawing attention that if there are reservations that we have to make, we do that so that we know where we're treading. Again, on the African Charter, of course, promoters have actually gone to pick certain provisions, but they forgot certain provisions. If you look at Article 28 of the African Charter, the pivot of that provision is on tolerance, and tolerating each other as Africans and as neighbors is very important. If citizens are erring on the side of culture in one way or the other, it's about how we tolerate them, what steps we can take to ensure that they come back on the right road. And the Honorable Eslausu was at pains at drawing attention, which I agree with. Article 39. It's very clear that the provisions, in fact, the Constitution looks forward to ways by which we can improve our culture from what we used to have, because culture as defined by the same Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights is not only looking at the past, it's expansive. It looks at the present and considers the future. So if there is a need for us to begin looking at certain practices, cultural practices, including the practices that this bill seeks to outlaw or to prohibit, why don't we take the non-criminal perspective, which is working, using institutions like NCCE and us, among others, to effect the necessary change. I know the Honorable is shaking his head here.